As free speech continues to face attacks, one very unexpected former group leader is calling out these attacks loudly and proudly. Former Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio, Enrique Tarrio, former Proud Boys leader, admitted it was rather hypocritical to cancel perceived leftists over their reactions to the killing of conservative activist Charlie Kirk, but that he considers it an eye for an eye. Now, see, if I would have just left it at the first sentence, maybe we could have found some common ground. Tarrio, who led the far right group from 2018 to 2021, says he has formed a network henchman who scour social media for posts celebrating Kirk's killing and pressure the user's employer to fire them. So you can go ahead and cross out the date and the time because it's irrelevant. He still is who he is. There's no common ground. None. Former extremist group leader stated this: "It's funny because this was a tactic that was used on us from 2017 forward. We got deplatformed. It sucked for us. I always said that I wouldn't do it back to anybody, but since then, I've been incarcerated for something I didn't do. Mm. So I'm in a different mindset right now, an eye for an eye right now." Tarrio was sentenced to 22 years in prison, longest conviction for any Capitol rioter. However, he was pardoned. President Trump did that on his first day back in office, along with over 1,500 other MAGA supporters who had been convicted of January 6th related crimes. And remember, J.D. Vance tried to tell us that this is not the violent people. We're just going to, there's people who just showed up to exercise free speech, and they're not the ones that defecated, stole Nancy Pelosi's mail, put their feet up, put the noose up for Pence. Former leaders group, the Proud Boys, is responsible for some of these firings. Tarrio claimed more than 100 people have lost their jobs as a result of his group's initiative. Can you imagine if they worked for the greater good? Like that, this is incredible work that they're doing. It just happens to be devilish, evil, cruel work. But if they worked for the greater good, can you imagine what they could get done? They've got excellent organization skills, I have to say. And they have a way of reaching power, okay? Or maybe power is reaching down to them. I guess it's kind of hypocritical of us after saying, oh, free speech or whatever. But the problem is the right isn't good at fighting dirty. Now they figured it out and it's working. And Elliot, it is working. It's working, okay? But listen, this Enrique, he's just a bowl of grossness. But what really gets me is these employers. You know what I mean? I listen, I understand that free speech is not without consequence, right? If you say something that embarrasses your employer and they want to, but look what's happening when people are just telling a rather bland truth. They're just, suddenly they're out of a job. And it's like, if we turn you in because we decide it's in these four corners of what is and is not acceptable, then they just act on it. It's just, stop. Somebody punch the bully in the mouth, figuratively. We don't want more we don't need any more violence, folks. None.
Yeah, I do think this goes back to also these guys. I mean, they're dorks. Like there is no other. It's always the word that comes to mind because I can't think of a better one when I imagine someone who's just like alone, scouring the internet for comments they find offensive, and then finding their employer and emailing them. And also, like you're saying, being an employer and getting some like deranged email out of the nowhere from someone who was creeping on one of your employees, it does seem like you would just maybe ignore that. And I do think there's this like collective fantasy going on right now where people are acting like they got the internet yesterday and that it hasn't always been filled with really dark vitriolic jokes since its inception. Like this is what it is. And it's not necessarily always a good thing, but this sort of like guffawing at it and like the clutching of the pearls, it blows my mind. You guys are supposed to be really tough. And yet it doesn't seem like you are very much.
Yeah, I mean, just Yeah, you're in the basement. You're actively
Yeah,
in Ma's basement eating a TV dinner in your boxers on the internet. At least the neo-Nazis groups are going to the gym, but you're not even that active. You're just
yeah.
dorky.
Too, what I wonder if at any point when they're like finding these terrible, like mean things that have been said about Charlie Kirk, a lot of them are jokes. And I do wonder if they were occasionally laughing and we're like, all right, that actually is a pretty good one as they were like typing out their email to the employer, because some of the jokes just structurally,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm allowed to laugh at them, but occasionally one slips out, is all I'm saying.
Yeah. Just make sure your blinds are closed and,
Yeah.
you're not too loud because I don't think we're allowed
Incognito.
to laugh anymore. Jimmy
No.
Kimmel's canceled and, there's a
Yeah.
whole lot that's happened. But I don't know what Enrique would say about that. And I'm certainly not going to DM him because then he'll discover my account.
Oh, yeah. Then you're
I would
done.
love it if he would write jank, right? And say, get rid of her because she's saying some really vile things.
Yeah. Bring
Okay.
it on.
That would be beautiful. I think I would love it.